Listen, if your aim sucks, then you're going to have a rough time in Warzone, so here is my full, in-depth aim guide for Call of Duty Warzone. Hey guys, it's FourEyes or Dave here, welcome back to another video. Today we are going through an in-depth aim guide for Call of Duty Warzone that's going to break down all the different ways that you can set up your game to be better at aiming, get better practice in, and then the kind of things you need to do in-game to actually employ a lot of the stuff that you're learning so that you can have a better time in the Warzone and hopefully end up with more kills and more wins as a result. Now, a quick note before we begin, aiming is one of many different skills that make up a great Warzone player, so just getting your aim intact won't completely revolutionize your game, but it definitely will help. There's other things you need to learn, like decision-making, teamwork, movement, all the movement mechanics in the game, as well as just a general bit of luck. You know, this is a Battle Royale game, so there's going to be some scenarios where you just need to get a bit lucky, but having your aim sorted is going to really boost you and help kind of alleviate a lot of problems that you're having. So hopefully this guide helps you out in every way that you need. If while watching this video you decide, hey, this guy's videos are pretty good, I'd actually quite like to watch more of them and know when he posts new ones, well, hit the subscribe button down below and hit the notification bell as well so that you can be notified every time I upload new videos. You can also follow me over on Twitter. I just post random stuff over there, general conversations, stuff about Warzone, stuff about life. Come follow me over there and we can get some conversations going on some of those kind of trending topics in the gaming space and specifically the Warzone space. So I touched on it at the start of the video. There's actually going to be three separate little parts to this video. The first part, we're going to be talking about kind of stuff that you can do pre-game, stuff that you do before you even start running around in the Warzone trying to shoot people. Things like settings, things like class setups. There's a lot of individual little bits here, which, especially for new players, you need to understand before you even jump into the game. But even for you experienced players, there might be some things you don't know, which I can hopefully tell you today. Number two is going to be your practice. So kind of what things you can do which aren't, you know, jumping into an actual Battle Royale game where you're dying once and then you're out, or at least you gulag and then maybe you're out. All the things you can do to improve your aim outside of the main mode that will allow you to jump into the main Battle Royale mode and have a much better time. And then number three, what kind of things can you actually do when you're in the Battle Royale mode that will improve your chances of getting kills and improving your aim overall? So first things first, let's talk about pre-game. Now, I know I'm in a game at the moment, so it kind of goes against what I'm saying, but this is all stuff that you can do outside of the game, in your settings, before you even touch the game, and it's really important. So, number one is going to be your graphic settings. Now, not everyone has insanely beefy PC setups. Like, I've got a 3070 running in this machine at the moment, and it's an absolute beast. I'm lucky to have got one, but not everyone out there is running the kind of specs that potentially I or streamers are running. So the first thing you should be doing is coming into your graphics and lowering a lot of these settings. Now, there's a lot of guides out there which go through probably the best Warzone settings. I've done one myself a while back. I haven't done an updated one though, so go and check out someone else's video for what the best graphic settings they're running in, or look at the streamers and see what they're running. But the aim here is to get our FPS as high as possible and our input latency as low as possible. So we want to be doing things like lowering a load of settings, making sure other programs aren't running in the background on our PC, taking up resources. Anything here that just lowers your FPS, increases that input latency, is just going to make aiming harder. You want to have that one-to-one feeling between your controller or your mouse and keyboard with the game so that you're not introducing any issues that could lead to your aim being fucked up. The next and probably most important setting for aiming, obviously, is your sensitivity. Now, I find a lot of people out there are doing one of two things very wrong with their sensitivity. They're either switching sensitivity every single game, trying to find something that just instantly clicks and is just right. Well, that's not going to be very helpful for you in the long run. You know, if you're changing your sensitivity every single game, then you're not building up what we call the muscle memory that enables you to potentially say, if there was an enemy over at these doors and I happen to be aiming over here, how far do I need to move my mouse, or how much do I need to move my stick in order to flick over to that door and flick back? Now, I've been running the same sensitivity for absolute age, and I run it across a load of different games. Let's just kill this guy. And that means that I've developed muscle memory where I know kind of subconsciously how far I need to move my mouse. If you want to see what my sensitivity is, and this shouldn't be the guide of follow my sensitivity and use it, I use a 5.73 sensitivity with an 800 DPI. Someone's taking shots at me. Let's just move out the way for a second. Now, in general, a load of people will say have a lower sensitivity because it will allow you to have better kind of aim over these short distances. Like if I want to just do little like pre-aiming angles, we're going to talk about pre-aiming a little bit later. I'm able to control my mouse enough. If my sensitivity was way too high, then I would be, over flicking. I would be struggling to have that control in terms of recoil and in terms of micro adjustments. So I would say have a lower sensitivity and then find something and stick to it. Just if it doesn't feel right straight away, run it for at least, 5 games, if not more, and actually get that muscle memory developing in your system so that you can actually then employ that in the game. Now, the last setting that we can change before we jump in game, and especially a setting which a lot of pro players and streamers change to improve how well they can aim in Warzone, is the ADS FOV setting. Now, we get to this by coming into the options, into the general tab, and then where it says FOV, you see I have my FOV set to 103. I could have this a lot higher to get even more vision on those sides of my screen, but I find that target acquisition becomes a lot harder having it that high, so I find 103 is just my standard across a lot of games. But if we click Advanced here, you will see ADS Field of View. Now, by default, this is set to Independent, and what this means is that this setting of FOV, so increasing this from kind of this FOV to this FOV, it means that your ADS isn't affected by it. So if I come out of this at the moment and we zoom in, look how much we zoom in when I right click. So if I kind of position this, I'll position this so that bin on the left side of my screen is right at the edge, okay? So you'll see how much I zoom in. Okay, now what I'll do is I'll come out, we'll go back and we'll turn it to affected. And what we should see is that it doesn't zoom in as much. It zooms in a hell of a lot less. Now, a lot of people will say to you, surely we want to zoom in as much as possible so that we can get good eyes on the target and we don't lose them at range. There is some validity to that, and a lot of people do agree to that, but most pro players will keep this at affected due to something that we call visual recoil. So if I aim in here and start shooting, now this is an M16, it's a tactical rifle, it's a burst, so it's harder to see the recoil, and I start shooting. You'll notice that the recoil is pretty minimal, or at least it looks pretty minimal. If I turn this onto independent and do the same thing, you start to notice that it looks like we're recoiling more, and it's because we've zoomed in more, and therefore the amount of recoil that we see on the screen just feels far harder to control. If you do this with a full auto weapon like an SMG or an AR, you're going to struggle to aim once you start pulling the trigger. You're going to lose people because the visual recoil is absolutely insane. So I would recommend that you run a high FOV and then turn on affected ADS field of view so that we can keep that visual recoil down to a minimum and we're able to control the recoil and get better shots on targets. It's kind of personal preference, but I'd recommend you try it out and see if you like it. The final thing that we can do pre-game is, of course, our class setup. Now, you're going to be seeing all sorts of class setups online. The meta class setups, the broke class setups, the underrated class setups that no one uses, but they're really broke, I promise. Yeah, right. Well, ignore my class setup names here. We've got Fix Warzone here because these psychobs are just an absolute mess. But, I'm a bit of a meta slave, so I have to stick to it sometimes. When we come into our class setup, we are looking to create a gun that fits our playstyle. That's probably the most crucial thing, especially for newer players. Some of the meta weapons are harder guns to use. The AMAX, for example, which I've got on this class, is a great weapon, but it has a solid amount of recoil that is harder to control and requires a lot more practice. So, potentially, one of the simplest ways to improve your aim is to just use a gun which is easier to use overall. An example of this could be the M13, which does a lot less damage than the AMAX, but if you're a new player who struggles aiming, you'll potentially have better time to kill with something like the M13 than the AMAX, because you're actually landing more shots. And a lot of people just don't seem to understand that. They just run with the AMAX every game. They're not improving at all with it. They're just not killing anyone because they can't actually control the recoil. I would recommend use the M13. Use other guns that I would recommend would be things like the Kilo is still genuinely viable. We've got the Growl wherever it is. Oh, I'm going to lose it here. Where is he? The Growl 556. You know, these are all guns which used to be meta. They fell out of meta because they were nerfed fairly decently back in the day, but they're still good guns and they're still easy to control. The next thing on top of the gun itself in your creator class is the attachments. Now, you'll see typical attachments used across multiple different weapons, especially in the actual categories themselves. So we're talking about things like the mono suppressor, we're talking about things like the increased mag size. These are just generally good things for Warzone because they keep you off the map and they allow you to, you know, shoot more bullets. But there are specific attachments that we run on a lot of different guns because they help with aim. An example of this, now I've got the Ranger foregrip on here, but an example that you'll see on a lot of different ARs is the Commando foregrip. Now, the specific reason for this is that it increases your recoil stabilization. There are two stats, recoil stabilization and recoil control, like the Merc foregrip gives you. Recoil control is reduction in your vertical recoil. Recoil stabilization is reduction in your horizontal recoil. So why do we want to reduce the horizontal recoil more than the vertical recoil? Well, simply put, vertical recoil is straight up and it's predictable. If I get this AMAX out right now and I start shooting and let it go naturally, it climbs up. I can counteract that by moving my mouse down, or if I was on a controller, I can pull the stick down, like this. Sometimes you can pull down a bit too much, like I started to do there, but you can see that the vertical recoil, as long as it's not crazy, it's not really a problem. Horizontal recoil, however, is completely random, left and right. And you can't really account for it because if you try and start pulling right, then it will go left, then it will go right, and it's too hard to control. And therefore, we want to use the Commando foregrip to reduce that horizontal recoil and allow us to aim even easier. The final important attachment for anyone aiming in Warzone is the optic, because that's what's going to allow you to visually see enemies and is going to determine how much visual recoil we get. Now, different optics in Warzone have different amounts of visual recoil. It's very widely known that the optics for the Modern Warfare weapons give seemingly less visual recoil overall as a group than the Black Ops ones. Hence why a lot of people are still running Modern Warfare ARs. You know, we're still seeing the M4, the AMAX, the Growl here and there, and it's really because they are just beams, all of them. They're all really, really solid guns with really good optics. Specifically, the VLK 3x optic has very little visual recoil. It's really clean, really easy to use. If you start moving over to things like the Flip Hybrid, or I'm trying to see what other things like the Night Vision, a lot of these just have way worse visual recoil in-game, and even though you're not actually recoiling more, it's just way harder to stay on target. So that's why the VLK is used across the board. You know, it's not really personal preference at this point. This is just the best optic to use. As an addition to this, just so I don't miss it, the Axial Arms 3x is probably the best low visual recoil alternative that you can use for Black Ops weapons like this Stoner here. As a quick extra point here, and I don't really want to bring it in as a key point, but it does get to a point sometimes where you need to improve your equipment. I use a Logitech G Pro wireless mouse, no cables, really low latency, and this mouse completely improved my aim across all games. If you're still running old equipment, you know, old keyboard, old mouse, old controller, that's just going to hamper your performance in game. I'm not saying that everyone can easily go out there and just buy stuff. You know, people are of different ages, people have different incomes, and I don't really want to put this as a key point in the video, but it goes without saying that better equipment will improve you, assuming that you employ all the other things I'm saying in this video. So if you have some cash spare and you're looking to upgrade, go do some research, find out what some good mice or good controllers are, and maybe invest in your game. So that's all the pre-game stuff out the way. Now we're going to get into our practice. Now, we could jump straight into Battle Royale and start running around, you know, getting our money, getting our loot, get our loadout, and then we get into a fight and we die. And we're like, oh, okay, well, I'm in the gulag, and then you get fists in gulag, and then you're just out because someone has a slight bit better connection than you. Battle Royale, yes, it's the main mode, but it's not the best place to practice in Warzone. Luckily, we have a bunch of other modes, and they all offer different things that allow you to improve both aim as well as all of your other skills in Warzone. So let's first talk about Plunder. Now, Plunder is a respawn game mode where you can run around, you can get kills. It has obviously the exact same damage profiles as the normal Warzone experience, the exact same weapons, and there's a reason that Plunder is in the game really as a practice mode. It's also kind of there to upgrade weapons. You know, you get people running around with whatever the meta weapon is at the time, just trying to level it up. But Plunder's a really good opportunity to just get some practice in and start shooting at people. I would recommend, if you're using Plunder for practice, to land in a high profile area. I would usually recommend Storage Town because it's just all kind of level. You're going to have loads of people landing there and fighting, and play purely to get as many kills and get as many practice as possible that you can. Challenge as many fights as you can. Don't run around trying to get loads of money and trying to deposit the money. We're not playing Plunder to win here. We are playing to practice. And there's probably no better way in Warzone to get that practice in. The other two options in Warzone are Rebirth, Resurgence. Ideally playing in quads with some friends. This is a really fast-paced mode. You know, it brings in more of that decision-making from the standard BR mode because we're kind of twinning that how we aim to how we decide to make the plays, and there is a certain level to that which makes it in some ways better than Plunder because there is actual, I guess, consequences to your actions, which you don't really get in Plunder. So Rebirth Resurgence is genuinely a really good addition to the game to get that kind of fast-paced version of Warzone, which is a bit more forgiving because you can get those respawns in as well if your teammates survive. The other thing to do, if you have it, is to play Modern Warfare multiplayer. Now, I know a lot of you guys won't have Modern Warfare multiplayer. Warzone is a free game. The Modern Warfare multiplayer isn't. I'm one of the people who bought Modern Warfare when it came out, and I played the crap out of it. And then Warzone released, and now I play the crap out of Warzone. But jumping back into multiplayer, whilst the damage profile of the guns isn't the same, and some of the guns handle a little differently, in general, the underlying engine is exactly the same as Warzone. So you can get into many gunfights in that fast-paced multiplayer style, and you can actually just get a feel for the aim in Call of Duty. And that will transfer over to Warzone for those, especially those close range fights. You know, a lot of the maps in multiplayer are close range, so when you're doing those close quarters, clearing buildings and such, the skills that you learn from playing multiplayer, running around and shoot the ship and just like destroying people on shipment, that will transfer over to Warzone and will just give you better aim overall. So I would still recommend multiplayer as a good practice tool as well. So don't forget it if you have access to it. Now, if you want to take your aim practice, or specifically aim training, to another level beyond just playing Warzone or even Modern Warfare, then try out AimLab. AimLab is a free application that you can get on Steam, and it gives you access to a load of different training scenarios that will improve all of your fundamentals of aiming. We're talking about tracking, flicking, target acquisition, all of these little different bits that play into a really amazing aim god. You can practice it all in here. You can do things like spider shot, which you can see here is kind of tracking to and from targets, flicking between. You've got strafe track, where you actually practice pure tracking, which is really good when you're, maybe shooting at enemies at range and they're running across your screen. Do you ever find yourself maybe losing track of them a little bit? Well, something like sphere track will allow you to practice that. Now, is this stuff completely necessary? No, I don't think it is, but it's a free application, and I would recommend that people do try it out because it's a lot of fun to, compare your scores against teammates, and it just gives you access to a different style of training to break up your practice from just playing Warzone, and will actually instill some fundamentals that you might not ever be able to truly master from just playing Warzone. So, yeah, I'd recommend it. So finally, we're jumping in game. We've got all our settings set up. We've done a load of aim practice. Now, what kind of things can we do in game to improve our aim and just in general make aiming easier as a task? So we're looking to pair two important aspects of the game when we're in game, and that is our decision making, or at least how we handle information that the game presents to us, and then a concept known as crosshair placement or pre-aiming. So let me just run around, get some weapons, and I'll try and talk you through what I mean. So I can hear enemies shooting outside, so I'm going to move up to this window. Now, I don't want to run up to this window and just kind of run along and then run out and just be like, oh, where could this enemy be? That's not very useful. What I want to do is I want to be pre-aiming every situation that I can. So if I'm in this room, I hear someone downstairs, I'm going to have my crosshair placed on this door because I know that there's stairs going down to the bottom floor outside. And then as I move up to the door, I'm going to keep my crosshair in the correct place where I think an enemy might be. You see how I'm always keeping my crosshair? Oh, someone else killed that one. I'm always keeping my crosshair where I think an enemy might be. Using sound cues, moving around, pre-aiming areas, so I'm not surprised when I come around corners. If I'm moving across open areas, I want to have my crosshair in a position where an enemy might be at those long ranges. So as I'm progressing towards this building over here, we've got 2 doors, one up here, one up here. Got a bot trying to kill us from the left, and I don't want to be running along like this, like, you know, aim down at the floor, progressing to these stairs, running up. That's not going to be helpful. If a guy were to pop his head out of this door, I would be dead. So instead, as I move towards the door, my aim stays on it. So if a guy appears, I'm ready to shoot. Ruining my video. These bots, man. And you'll just see, as you watch this gameplay, I'm not the best aimer, but having my aim pre-aimed where I'm moving to and where I think an enemy might be. That one came out of nowhere. It just means that I don't have to flick. That's the thing everyone seems to think, is you have to do these crazy flicks, and you'll see these plays where people do these crazy flicks onto enemies. And it's cool, but you shouldn't be putting yourself in situations where flicking is all that you can do, because you can just aim at scenarios, aim at areas where you think enemies might be, and use that instead. And there we go, guys. That is my full aim guide for Warzone. A lot of different things that I think a lot of people who talk about how to improve your aim don't usually talk about. Most people will usually just say, play the game loads and you'll get better. Yes, that's kind of true. Practice does make perfect, but you should be playing the game with the intent of improving your aim. And everything that I've discussed in this video is the way that you can go about doing that in the best way possible. Because without the intent to improve, you're relying on just this natural progression, which for a lot of people, you'll just hit plateaus where you don't improve. So play with the intent to improve your aim, do the things I've said, and your aim will improve. 100%. I'm not the best aimer ever. I'm not some sort of pro player. Most of my issues is that I make terrible decisions in game and just push people. But while I'm doing that, I do find my aim is above average. So hopefully you've enjoyed the video. Hopefully this has been helpful for you. If you did enjoy it, then make sure you subscribe down below. As I said, like the video, leave a comment, and I will see you guys for my next video, which should be for the Season 3 launch at the end of next week. Looking forward to it, and looking forward to posting more videos for you guys. I'll catch you guys next time. Bye-bye.